Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Welcome to the last episode of Season 3 on Life Transformation Radio. It has been an amazing year. I want to thank you before I begin to all of the listeners that has supported Life Transformation Radio throughout the whole entire year of 2019. It has been an absolute incredible ride, 134 episodes. So I just want to thank everybody for their time, support, their love, and excited to see where Life Transformation Radio goes in the next couple of years and however long we do the show. And it doesn't seem like there's any signs of stopping anytime soon. So with that, I am honored and proud to deliver you the last episode 134 of Season 3, which takes us to about 316 episodes of Life Transformation Radio. So once again, I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 74 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here is where we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing, highlight that transformational moment that changed our lives, and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I ask that you join our Facebook group, Life Transformation Radio Community. You can interact with the guests, interact with me and the other guests that come on the show, and never miss an episode by subscribing wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Life Transformation Radio can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, CastBox, the Himalaya app, Google Play Music app, and now we are available on Pandora. Super pumped that we're now available on Pandora. So on the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, and amazing human beings that are impacting the world around them. If anything resonated with you today, please send us a message. Let us know your favorite episode of 2019. You could also dial in at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And with that, I want to welcome the listeners, and I want to welcome my guest for today. Super pumped to have him on the show. My guest, high performance coach, David Wood. David, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Thank you, Sean. Happy to be here.
Man, I am pumped. I was reading your bio. I was doing some research on you. I love everything that you're doing, man, and you just crush it. If anybody is crushing it, it is this guy right here. Just looking at his social media content, looking at what he's putting out to the world, the YouTube channel, everything you got going on. It is just absolutely incredible, man.
Well, I like your enthusiasm. I think I should hang out with you more often.
I was trying to title the show. I'm like, do I do play for real or do I do tough conversations? But I really chose tough conversations as the title of this episode because in 2019, I rebranded my show from being an interview-based show to literally being a conversational-based program. And there's a lot of podcasts that the host doesn't really give a lot of feedback. the guest will say something great, and the host goes, "Oh yeah, yep, awesome, and then they go and ask another question. The guest gives some amazing insight, and the host goes, yep, great, that's awesome, and then just that's the show. Here, it's just a conversation. It's like we're sitting in a bar, we're sitting on a park bench, we're literally having a conversation. So that's what I branded this show, and so I chose Tough Conversations because that's what your YouTube channel is all about. That's what you're all about, is having those tough conversations.
Yeah, it's tricky with any business. You got to brand and you got to pick a lane. What I really want for people is that on their deathbed, they can say, I gave it everything. I gave it everything in life and work. I have zero regrets. And so that's how I came up with Play for Real. But when I looked deeper into how do you play for real, how do you live the best life possible, I found that more truth, more daring, and more caring were the avenues that I found to have a better life. And Tough Conversations is all about those three things. So they're kind of a doorway to us getting great results, deeper connection, and to living the best life we can.
Yeah, but we have difficult conversations every day. We have tough conversations. You know, the sex talk with your children. If there's a death in the family and you have a small child, our dog recently passed away back in September, and our kids were devastated. Our 2-year-old doesn't really know. Our 5-year-old's like, "Where's the dog?" Like, that's a conversation that we kind of have to have, right?
Yeah.
Conversations about divorce, conversations about a miscarriage, conversations about suicide. I mean, there's so many tough conversations in this lifetime that we will have.
Well, that's
we
true.
need to highlight them.
That's true. There are some conversations that are just kind of like we're driving along the road. They're sitting right in the middle of the road, and we have to have them. My concern is more about the ones we're avoiding, the ones we don't even know that are sitting there ready to happen. All we know is we don't like that person, or we're a bit annoyed with that, or we wish our job was better, and we haven't even realized, wait a minute, there's a tough conversation here, and I could actually change things for the better.
Okay. Yeah. There are some of those tough conversations. You got to sit somebody down and be like, I really don't want to bring this up, but
yes, that's
this.
a good way to start it. I really don't want to bring this up, but I think it'd be better for both of us if I did.
Yeah. There's tough conversations that happen in marriage too. What I used to do is go, you wife do this and you do this. And I would just feel like she'd feel like I was attacking her. But what I really wanted to come across was that you're doing things that I don't like. You're behaving in a way that I don't like. And I learned that I have to say, like, I feel like this is happening, or it's my interpretation, or this is how I feel when you do things. And now, like she said something, I don't know, a couple of days ago, she had said something. I was like, wow. I was like, I really took that in this way, and that does not feel good. That does not feel good at all. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize that it came across that way. I didn't mean it that way. I'm like, I really feel like, I don't know if it was meant that way, but that really hurt. Like, that was something that, it wasn't like call me a name or anything. It's just something she said. And I was like, I wouldn't even joke about that. Like, that really, for me, how you said it, the way it came across, that kind of really hurt me. And she's like, oh my gosh,
well,
I'm so sorry.
I really like how you said that, because one of the mistakes people can make in a tough conversation is making universal truths, universal statements. Like, you left the house a mess, or you spoke rudely to me last night, something like that, that's talking about something out there in the world that's a fact. But if you own your own experience, which you did in your language there, and you talk about yourself and say, when you said this is how I felt, no one can argue with that. So It's actually speaking inarguably, and you're going to get further if you do that. And one word that I learned from one of my partners was the word ouch. Just to say, ouch. And that's basically what you said. You said that hurt. When you said that, I felt hurt. That's ouch, letting someone know, all right, that stings. And I just think it's too rare in our society that we just say that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I want to bring the listeners into a little more of your world. So the conversations that we have on this show, It's going to be perfect for you, Dave. It's going to be, this is going to be normal stuff for you. We have difficult conversations on the show. We have conversations that transform lives. And that's the topic we're going to cover today is the tough conversations. He is a former consulting actuary to Fortune 100 companies, including Sony Music, Chanel, Exxon. And, David left his cushy Park Avenue job 20 years ago to build the world's largest coaching business. He became #1 on Google for life coaching, serving an audience of 150,000 coaches and coaching thousands of hours in 12 countries around the globe. Alongside his clients' successes, David is no stranger to overcoming challenges himself, having survived a full collapse of his paraglider and a fractured spine, witnessing the death of his sister at age 7, anxiety and depression, and a national Gong Show. He is the author of Get Paid for Who You Are, with foreword by Jack Canfield. He was nominated to the Transformational Leadership Council alongside thought leaders as Don Miguel Ruiz, John Gray, and presidential candidate Marianne Williamson. David believes that the tough conversations we avoid are our doorways to confidence, success, and love. They become the defining moments which shape our careers, our relationships, and our lives. He coaches high-performing entrepreneurs, executives, and teams, and now inmates to create amazing results and deep connection, one tough conversation at a time. There's a link right here, www.playforreal.life. If you go to playforreal.life, you can take the 5-minute life assessment. Again, 5 minutes. Take that life assessment and then send David a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you want to connect with him, and let him know that you heard his episode of Life Transformation Radio. David, I am dying to know, man, after reading that and having a conversation with you, what is your why for what you do?
Well, my life hasn't always been easy. And when, as you read in the bio, when I was 7, I watched my little sister die in a traffic accident, and I didn't know that that had an impact on my life. I'm just a 7-year-old kid. But as I got older, say around in my 20s, I started to realize that I was good at numbers and systems and results and consulting and all of that, but I was missing emotional intelligence. I was missing personal growth and transformation. I was cynical. I didn't even think that that was a real thing. And I was fortunate enough to stumble on a personal growth course. And in that, I found myself coaching other people. I'm like, wait, now I got to bring my systems skills into it. And I'm like, why don't you try that? And why don't you try that? And I changed someone's life overnight. So, and my own. I got to change. My own life took longer to change. But I realized there's so much possible. We can have amazing business results and a great career, but let's also have deep connection. Let's also have authenticity and truth. Let's also have bravery and daring. And as I've discovered those things in my own life, I've been really happy to be able to share those with others and help them walk the same or similar path. So I think that's my why. It didn't start easy, and I missed a lot for so many years. And as I discovered how life could get better and better, it's a joy for me to share it with others.
Absolutely love that, man. I've got 2 sisters myself. I've got a couple half sisters. I can't even imagine, even as a 7-year-old boy, number one, being in a car accident, and number 2, losing a sibling. I can't even imagine what that was like. So, wow. Yeah, that's tough.
The other thing that I think had an impact, as I've been talking to people about tough conversations and being self-expressed, which never seemed like a real thing to me. I was like, what do I care about self-expression? But when you haven't had it for 20, 30 years and then you discover it, it's a pretty cool thing. When I was in school, I didn't know how to stand up to bullies. And ironically, I was senior belt of my karate class, but I always backed down in a fight and always felt smaller and unhappy with myself for doing that. And I also didn't know how to talk to girls. And those were real pain points for me. So as I got older and I learned how to communicate, and I learned how to stand up for myself and have dignity, and I learned how to speak to women, I think I discovered the value of self-expression and, again, authenticity. And I want that for everybody. I want them to be able to say what's important to them, whether or not they get the result they want. That's a wonderful bonus. But let you be you. You're going to like yourself more and feel better about your life. And on your deathbed, I believe you'll go, all right, that was great. I expressed myself, say 90% in my life, instead of saying, I wish I'd spoken up more.
Yeah. I mean, bullying is another difficult conversation to have, where my son was actually bullied, and we ended up taking him out of school and homeschooling him. And we had many conversations with the teacher. And this is the response I got from a teacher. I was like, hey, my son is being bullied in your classroom. Well, I mean, they're not really bullying him. I mean, they might poke fun at him, but I mean, come on. Like, he needs to have tough skin. Yeah, no, I get that. But my son is also telling me that he doesn't appreciate that type of behavior. And my son is not wrong. But my son will tell that kid what he thinks of that kid, and he better not get in trouble for it. Well, sometime later, he had enough and said something to the kid or whatever, and they're like, you don't talk like that, and like wanted to suspend him. I was like, didn't I tell you that my son is only going to put up with so much before he snaps on his kid? And they were just like, well, I mean, I can't control every kid. You're the teacher. Like, you're the teacher. You're supposed to control all of the children's behavior. But,
that sounds like a tough conversation, all right. And also, you brought this up before about talking to your kids about the dog that's gone. I think kids are a great place to have tough conversations. It's like, how do I connect with this human and talk about something that could be upsetting for them, could be upsetting for me, and with something that I think there's a lost opportunity often. You sound like someone who has a lot of tough conversations with your kid.
Right.
I've met a lot of parents and coach parents who avoid some conversations with their kid, either because they think the kid couldn't handle it, or, which might be true in some cases, but I think in a lot of cases kids can surprise you, or they're just not sure how to have it. They don't know how. Like, I spoke to one woman, her kid was... she didn't want to mention sex in front of a kid. A kid's only like, 6 or 7, right? So that's fair enough. But her kid is, grabbing girls in inappropriate places at school.
Oh, no.
And she just doesn't want to have the conversation because she doesn't want him to know about men and women and body parts and what's appropriate and what isn't. And it's frustrating for me. I'm like, I could help you to sit down and have a tough conversation with your kid just so that he learns, all right, this is what people expect in life. And it's not like we're saying this is wrong and this is right. But if you do this, it's not going to go well. If you do this, it'll go better. Like, I'm biased. I'm like, let's have the conversations. Let's not wait for them to bite you on the ass.
Right. I like it. You're like, I'm biased. We got to do it.
I am biased.
I love it.
Like, I'm not a parent. But I tell you what, I really, like, I've been with parents and kids, and I've kind of checked in with a parent, like, can I go there with, here? Can I talk about this? Like, drugs have come up, or I've been asked a question and I want to answer it directly. Can I go there? And it's been amazing when I've had a parent who trusts me enough and says, yeah. Like, one parent, her kid's teacher had just been arrested for sexual abuse. And
holy no way.
Yeah, and the kid's like, say, 11 or 12 and didn't know what was going on. And I just looked at her and I'm like, may I? And it was just such a privilege that she said, yeah, go for it. And we talked to him about what's appropriate and what's not and what can hurt people. And we're saying, we're not saying that anything happened here. We don't know what happened, but just in case, we want everyone to be safe. And, we're sending love to the teacher, love to the kids. And it was a really amazing experience. And I understand why most people would avoid something like that because there are pitfalls. Absolutely. Right? It's scary stuff, but let's get into it.
Yeah, right. My son came home, I don't know, this is probably a week ago, 2 weeks ago. It was right before Christmas. It was like middle of December. Let's call it December 12th. So he comes home and he's staying the night at his friend's house, and he's known for some time that his friend is going to move away. They're in the military, and so his really, really very good friend is going to move away. And so we let him stay the night, and he was hanging out with him all day, whatever. And we told him, I says, if you want to go stay the night, you have to do these three things. You literally have to do these three things. And so he did like one of the three things or whatever it was. And so then like the next morning, like that morning, we're like, you must come home now. Like it's like 8 a.m. or something like that. I'm like, come home now. You're not staying. You're not having lunch with them. You're not like you spent the night. You did your thing, but you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You need to come home now. Well, he was going to go to lunch with them, and then they were going to leave in the afternoon. I said, nope, you're done. You had your time. You didn't do what you promised you would do, and you said that you were going to do. You didn't keep your word, and so you're done. You have to come home now. And he comes home screaming and crying. He's like, I never get to do nothing. I was, typical 16-year-old boy stuff. And he's like, I just wish I would die. Everybody's moving away, and I don't have any friends, and like all this stuff. And I was like, really? And that's a tough conversation we had to have. I said, dude, how do you think I felt? I actually tried to take my life. Like, how do you think I felt? You think the world's going to be better without you? And that's a tough conversation. We immediately jumped into a tough conversation. I said, I'm uniquely qualified to talk to you about this, right? Because I tried to kill myself, and he's like, well, and so the backstory is he's my stepson, but his dad abandoned him when he was like 5 or 6 years old. So I pretty much raised him, me and my wife, her son, I pretty much raised him, his whole life. The dad's tried to come into his life and take him for a weekend. And then once we told him that, hey, man, you need to take your kid. Like, he needs to see you. He goes, well, if I take my kid, I'm going to kill us both. Whoa. So then that happened. And then we did some court stuff and, whatever. And the guy just doesn't do anything. Like, never called, never not a birthday, Christmas, nothing, just never calls. So I was like, well, how do you think I felt? Like, my dad left me and my mom and 2 sisters to go in the military and then made another family somewhere. Like, people left me all the time. I've been in the military for X amount of years. When I was in the military, I had to leave like all the time. Like, this isn't the hardest thing you're going to go through, dude. So we had to have that immediate tough conversations. He is like ugly crying, because his friend's leaving, and it's one of his best friends that he's hung out with where we live for like 2 or 3 years. And
it sounds like you've been through a lot of tough conversations yourself. And I like, I agree with what you said. You do have the cred to talk to him about suicide and depression since you've been there. That's true. Yeah. One of the things that can make it hard to have a tough conversation with a kid or someone else is if you haven't been through it, but you have. And I also liked how you did it. I mean, I wasn't there. We don't have a recording for how you spoke to him, but let's assume you spoke to him the way you just said it on the radio. Hey, because you didn't do what you were supposed to do, I'm going to have to bring you home. I think a lot of us think, or we learn perhaps from our parents, that if it's a tough conversation or we have to draw a line, we have to use anger. And so we draw on that and we bring anger into it and like, you shouldn't have done that and you're going to come home. But I don't think it's necessary and it's counterproductive.
Right.
If you can actually, one of the things that I suggest is release the charge on the conversation before you have it. So let's say you're going to talk to your kid about something difficult, or you're going to confess something to your partner, or you're going to ask your boss for a raise. Talk it out with someone else. And you can just release a lot of the charge so that then you can just be more matter of fact and just describe, I think I deserve a promotion, or, hey, I broke an agreement and I want to apologize. Or you didn't do what you said you did, so there are consequences, and I need to bring you home. Mm-hmm. I think it can all be done with love, and I think that's what we're really shooting for.
Yeah. No, well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the feedback. And it was just, I was like, hey, dude, you didn't do what you were supposed to. You need to come home. But I was like, no, you said that you would do this, and you didn't. And
Yeah.
we told you that if you go, these 3 things need to be done. And
That's a
I
classic
still
tough
don't remember what
conversation, setting a boundary.
Yeah,
Setting a
I don't
boundary,
remember.
like, hey, if you do this, this is going to happen. That's a hard conversation to have with a lot of people, but a great one to have in the tool belt.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't even remember what it was. I know one of them was like dishes because he did the dishes or yeah, he did the dishes or whatever. But I think I don't know, probably had to trade over his laundry because 16 years old, he's doing his own laundry. As soon as he turned 16, I was like, I'm going to teach you how to do laundry. You need to be doing your laundry. It's like you have 2 years before you're an adult. Now it's time to here's how you do laundry. Here's how you drive a car. Here's how here's your job. So he's got a job. He's got he does stuff, but as at that moment, so yeah, I mean, there's these times and I don't know. I just as a resilience trainer, I have these tools that I could just use. I don't like to to have the conversations. Everybody would love to have a perfect life, but it's just not what happens. So I have conversations with my 5-year-old, on why her cartoon. My kids don't watch SpongeBob anymore because they asked way too many questions. What's that? I'm like, oh, geez. We don't watch SpongeBob. But she'll watch cartoons. So I gotta have a conversation about that. I'm not. I don't know. The sex talk and everything else. I don't know. I don't shy away from it. I was like, hey, well, that goes there, and this is what happens, and then this happens, and then hey, you got babies. And my kids are all grossed out. I'm like, what? That's what happens. My wife's like, you couldn't read a book. The stork. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to the kids. Hey, look, this is what happens. This goes here, and this does this, and this does this, and this is what happens. And they're like, ew.
I think you strike me as an example of what I'm talking about or what I'm proposing. That we head more in that direction, because it's natural to avoid tough conversations because we might feel awkward, we might get upset, the other person might get upset. Sometimes we want to preserve the relationship and status quo and not rock the boat. But I like being around people who are willing to speak up. Say, hey, that didn't quite work for me. Can we change that up? I trust them more. So I'd like to live in a world where more people are having the kind of conversations that you're having and just going for it. Even saying, hey, I might stumble through this. And I might mess it up. Would you bear with me while I give it a shot, and then we'll work it out together?
Oh, yep. I like that. There are conversations that I'd rather not have. There are those. For example, there's a place in Michigan that just found out that their son passed away. And I got kids, and it's really close to home. Their son passed away, was found in a pond. He was out playing in the yard for Christmas and stuff, had family members over, whatever, and they found him in a pond. So those types of conversations about I don't know, if I had to, I would rather not talk about that stuff, but sometimes you do. I just don't think I'm emotionally equipped to bury a child.
How did they find the child?
I read in the news that he was out playing. He ran away, or he wandered off, or they were like, "Hey, where's he at? Where'd he go?" And so they called Michigan State Police, and they were like, "I can't find him. I don't know where he's at." Family members, the other cousins and stuff that were outside were like, "I don't know where he went. He was just here. I don't know where he went." Everybody was searching, frantically searching, and I don't know. Sometime later, a couple hours later. There's a pond away from the house, and I guess they found him in the pond, according to the news article.
So
but it's
dead.
A couple towns. Yes.
Okay.
But it's
it's
a couple towns over from where I lived. It's a couple towns over. That's why I read about it.
Right. And I'm curious, what's your hesitation in having? What is the conversation, and what's your hesitation in having it?
So I just showed my wife. I was like, check this out. I just showed her, she's like, oh my gosh. And then when she starts asking me questions, I'm like, I just wanted to show you. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to, because I believe in law of attraction. I believe in manifestation. And I'm so afraid that if I talked about that that it might happen to my kids, which is, I don't, kind of selfish, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to bring no bad juju on my kids at all. Like, I don't think I'm emotionally equipped to bury one of my children,
Yeah.
and I'm not in that position. I know people who have lost children, and it is devastating, and especially around this time of year. So there are conversations, like, I don't mind a religious conversation. I don't mind certain others, but like LGBT, like, I'd rather not have that conversation. Abortion,
Right.
I'd rather not have that conversation. Those are
Yeah.
polarizing topics.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason they're called tough conversations, because there's something about it that we'd rather avoid. The thing is, what we need to do for each conversation is assess the profit. With every conversation, there's potential upside gain, and then there's potential downside cost. And we need to assess the profit. The thing is, we're not very good at it. Our assessment is skewed. When we consider a conversation, like, let's say the LGBTQ, I don't even know if I'm getting those letters right, but when you look at that, the mind will show you all the bad stuff, like, that could be awkward, and hey, maybe that's going to bring bad juju, and maybe it's going to attract the very thing I don't want to have happen, whatever it is. But the mind doesn't seem to be very good at assessing the upside. Like, I might feel more connected with the person, or they might get some valuable knowledge which can change their behavior over the next 50 years, or whatever it is. Now, maybe 1 in 10 times I'll look at the assessment and I'll go, no, I'm not going to do it. For example, I was in Bali, and I was renting a villa, and then I sublet part of the villa to somebody else, and that's illegal. You can't do that.
Oh,
most countries don't care, but in Bali they care. And someone came to my door and said, "You're wanted for an interview tomorrow morning in the big city." And I did some quick research. I thought the gain would be, all right, I get to clear this up. I get to, pay whatever I need to pay, and maybe this will all be cleared, or I could be deported, but at least I'll have integrity. That's the upside. But I found out the downside, the cost to it, was I was risking jail.
Oh my gosh.
They would jail me while I'm awaiting a hearing, and there was no guarantee the hearing was going to come anytime soon, and I might have to negotiate a bribe from within jail. So I decided that was a conversation I didn't want to have, because the costs seem higher than the potential gain. But if I, again, I'm not a parent, but if I imagine talking to my child about LGBTQ, I might decide, all right, downside is I'm going to feel awkward. Upside might be that my kid's going to be prepped, so that when he meets someone who's different, my kid's going to know what that's like. My kid can, maybe make some decisions for themselves, or understand if they have weird feelings come up and know they can talk to me about it. I've actually got a worksheet. If you like, we can. You've already given people the website, playforreal.life. Any listeners can download the worksheet and the blueprint for a tough conversation, and it'll help you assess the profit. And you might decide, all right, there's no profit in that. I'm not going to do it and bring it up with this person. Or, you know what? This is time to screw up my courage and go and do it, because the upside looks greater than the downside. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. What I want to briefly get into in our remaining time together, we got about 10 minutes left. What I want to do is I want to talk about a transformational moment that changed your life and put you on the path to what you're doing today.
I was giving someone a ride home, or no, she was giving me a ride home from this personal growth course. And we sat in the car with the engine running, just talking for a little bit before I got out and went up to my apartment. And she just told me a bit more about her life. And she revealed that 10 years earlier, her husband had an affair. And for 10 years, she'd been holding that over his head and using that to shame and manipulate him and control him. And then she tells me that 10 years earlier, she also had an affair. Around the same time that, yeah, she did. But she never told him that part of it. So not only is she shaming him for something, but she's too scared to tell him that she did the same thing and they're actually on an equal footing. And I got the chance to coach her sitting there in that car and help her explore what that tough conversation might look like and what the upside could be out of coming clean after 10 years of lying. And to watch her face as the tears are streaming through her eyes, but I saw the inspiration hit and I saw her screw up her courage and knowing that she was going to go and confess was such a trip for me. And she went and told him about it and came back to our course and got up on stage and reported to everybody that the two of them felt like they were floating 6 feet above the ground the whole weekend, fully in love. And I was like, this coaching stuff is amazing. I want to help people tap into their courage, take a risk so they can fully live.
That is incredible. I'm immediately, as you're telling the story, I'm immediately like, oh man, he's going to flip out. Oh man, he's going to lose it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at first she's like,
risking.
What? You've been lying to me. Wait, you did the set. Oh, hell no. And like, I flip. I was immediately like, oh man, this is not going to end well.
Yeah. Well, that's what she's risking. In fact, when I was 18, I had my first real relationship, and I was stupid enough to cheat on my partner. And the next day, I had that tough conversation and told her what had happened, and I felt terrible. And just as this woman that I coached, I was risking losing the relationship.
Yeah.
Now, some people would say, no, I'm not going to tell them because it's just going to upset them, which really annoys me. Or I won't tell them because I want to preserve the relationship and, I'm going to lose my partner. Well, I figure if you don't tell them, you've lost them anyway. Because they're now with someone who's pretending and you don't have a real relationship. That's my opinion. And again, I'm biased. And she did break up with me. But just because it goes badly doesn't mean that that's wrong. And it doesn't mean that it's over. I ended up I rented a tuxedo or borrowed one, bought a dozen roses and got on a train for 6 hours and went up to her parents' house where she was staying and apologized and told her that she could count on me that would never happen again in my life. And we ended up getting married.
What?
Yeah. And in fact, we're no longer married. We weren't married for very long, but she's still one of my dear friends. And last year, I went and stayed with her and her new husband and their 6-year-old kid. It was extraordinary. So
what?
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about the comfortability of that relationship.
Well, I've always been honest with her, and that's one of the things. This is one of the benefits of having these tough conversations and telling the truth and taking your lumps up front, is that people will trust you more. I had a partner once who found a pair of panties in my closet, and she said, "How did these get here?" And I got to tell you, Sean, I had no idea. I was like, "What?" I had no idea how they got there, and I just told her that we had an agreement that I could make out with someone, but no sex. That was our agreement at the time. And I said, I had a date. She was here, but I'm sure her pants were on. I got to tell you, I got no idea how that happened. And she went, all right, good enough. And a friend said, how can you possibly trust him? Which is fair enough, right? In our society, how do you trust someone? You find panties in the closet. And she said, believe me, if there was anything to say, he would tell me, because I'd done it so many times. I just tell her the truth when I know it. So this stuff pays off. People can actually trust you because they know you're willing to go there.
I can't wait to let my wife know that I'm going to stay at the next girlfriend's house next time I go home to Michigan.
I'm going to smuggle some panties into your closet just so you get that opportunity.
Right. Man, I'd get punched in the throat. My wife is a 4'9" Puerto Rican. She will punch me in the throat if she finds a underwear.
That's a tough conversation you don't want to have.
No. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Dang, man. Wow. So as we start to close the show, I want to give you an opportunity. If somebody wanted to coach with you, if somebody's having a hard time, and they have to have a tough conversation, what does that look like? How does that take place? How do they get in contact with you? What's the process like?
Yeah, and you don't even have to be having a hard time. I used to work with people who are struggling a lot, and now I tend to work with people whose life is going pretty well, their work's going well. They just want to up level. So if you want life and work or your business to be better, I tend to work well with both. If you want just one, we'll go and get a business coach or a life coach, but I tend to work with both. Go to playforreal.life and take the 5-minute assessment, and you can request a discovery session with me. And if you qualify, I won't charge you for it. It's how I find the right people to work with long term. And if it feels right, we'll talk about long-term coaching. And if it's not right for us to work together, I might have some other suggestions that you can try out. And also, I'm the proud father of a baby podcast called Tough Conversations with David Wood. So if you want to listen to me, as well as the amazing Sean Douglas, you can click on podcast at playforreal.life and subscribe.
I'm so effing excited that you said that, because the whole time I was sitting here in the back of my mind, I have weird conversations with myself, especially in the shower. Amazing. And I'm thinking, I'm like, I hope this guy has a podcast called Tough Conversations. I really do that. This is, in my prediction, in the next 5 years, is the whole podcast of asking a bunch of questions and interviewing somebody and not giving any feedback and not having a conversation like we did today. That's done. That's over with. Anybody listening right now, if you listen to this episode and you are tired of the from the host and not giving feedback, it ain't going to be much longer till those shows are done and gone, and you have to step your game up. And conversations that are transforming, real tough conversations are going to start happening on podcasts. I promise you. This is, I don't know how many episodes you're in, but this is where podcasts are going. I know it. I can feel it.
Well, I got 12 episodes so far, and I'm enjoying it.
Love it.
I love getting this content out. So, man, thanks for the interview. This was we got into some really great content.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are you hosting through for your podcast?
I host with Libsyn.
Libsyn, yes, love Libsyn. Libsyn's absolutely amazing. Shout out to Rob Welch and Rob Greenlee. Those two guys, the Robs, are VPs over at Libsyn, and they're absolutely incredible friends of mine. And shout out to those guys. I've spoken at a couple podcast events, and Rob Welch just gets on stage and lays it down, man. The guy is super smart, and Libsyn is a great hosting platform. So, David, we always end the show with one takeaway. What is the takeaway? If nobody listens to anything that we talked about except for this one thing that you're going to say right now, what is the takeaway for our audience?
The tough conversations we avoid are our doorways to confidence, success, and love. And the tough conversations we have become the defining moments which shape our careers, our relationships, and our lives. So get out a sheet of paper, write down the name of anyone you don't feel wonderful with, and then just write down next to it what the issue is. You don't have to have the conversation, but you can just begin your awareness of it, and maybe you'll pick a couple of the easier ones to cut your teeth on and build up to the bigger ones.
Love it. I absolutely love that. I love that you said that they are the doorways to confidence, success, and love. Absolutely incredible. David, it has been an absolute honor to host you on Life Transformation Radio, the last episode of Season 3 of 2019. No better way to spend it with you, my friend. I wish you the best in 2020 and the years ahead.
Thanks, mate. You too.
Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around him. Subscribe to his show, Tough Conversations with David Wood. It is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And also subscribe to Life Transformation Radio. As I close, I always say, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.